Hello guys, Tom Yone here from Coding for Youth and welcome to the continuation of our Python series. This should be lesson number 14 and we've been talking about operators in starting from our previous lesson. So we want to complete our lesson on operators, and in this lesson we're going to be talking about the comparison operators, the logical operators, and also we'll talk about the identity and the membership operators. Okay. But before we begin, I would like to encourage you to try a bit of code every day. You can learn all the resources we have online, and before you know, already you are a master. So I also like to encourage you to subscribe to the channel. It will not take you anything, just subscribe, and you can turn on the notification so you get notified whenever a video is published. This is just one of the lessons we'll be uploading on this channel. We'll be talking a lot about web development and we'll talk about other programming languages. So please stick to the channel by subscribing to it, and also like the video and leave your comment at the comment section. Thank you guys. All right, so let's dive into our operators. So we are talking about, in this lesson we're going to be talking about comparison operators. In any programming language, you want to compare two values together, right? So comparison operators are actually used to compare values. Sometimes when values are assigned to variables, you want to do the comparison, and then you want to execute a particular code, or you want to do something when the condition is met, right? So let's look at the comparison operators we have in Python. Number one, let me just list them like I did in the previous lessons. We have the equal to, like this. Remember, see the way it is double equal to, okay, compared to the assignment operator, which is just single equal to. In fact, you can check it. Let's say you say x is equal to, this is equal to here now, is equal to 5. Let me declare this on one line. 5 and 4. If you compare, if you assign and you say print, now in this case I'm going to print x equal to y. This, remember, let's run this. If you run this, you x is an invalid keyword for this function. Okay, so but if we use a comparison, it will tell you that it's false. Now what happened is, in this case we want to assign x to y. If we come here, we say x equal to y, okay, and we try to print let's print only y. Remember, the value of y is 4. Now let's print x. Now what happened here is that the value of x has changed, because we have said that let the value of x be equal to the value of y, but the initial value of x was what? Was 5. Okay, so let's, in the other way around, when we did comparison, compare, this one we used to compare x and y, not assigning now. If we do this and run it, you see, we say now this is true because x is now equal to y. But if we don't have this, remember I told you that Python runs from top to bottom. If we don't have this, we'll have false as a result. Okay, so double equal to is used to compare if two values are equal. But in the case of the second one is not equal to, okay, like written like this, not equal to. If we come here and we say uh, x is not equal to y, okay, this will be true because x is equal to 5, y is equal to 4. So if you say they are not is not equal to y, it's going to be true, right? What about we have talked about 2 now, equal to, not equal to. Then we have the greater than, another comparison operator. The greater than is actually used to compare if a value is greater than another or the other. Okay, so if we come here, remember we said the value of x is equal to 5 and that of y, we assign 4 to be equal to be the value of y. So and we will know that 5 is greater than 4, right? So if we do this, if we run this, will give us true as well. So we have true. What about less than? Another comparison operator written like this. Less than. We want to compare if a value is less than the other. If we do that here, it will give us false because we know that 5 is not less than 4, right? So you see you have false. We have false here. Another comparison operator, I'll just talk about extra more to, then we are done with comparison. We have greater than or equal to, so we have written like this. We want to check if a value is greater than or equal to 4. So in this case, if we come here, we say is x greater than or equal to y? Yes, of course, x is greater than or equal to y. So is greater than, not equal to. So it's checking for two things here. First is checking if it is greater than it. If it is greater than, it will be true. And the other way around is also checking if it is equal to. If it is equal to it, it will be true. Now we're going to do something. We're going to use we're going to check this separately. Now let's make y to be equal to uh, x. Okay, so we have 5 5. We can only do that by doing what we did before. We can come here and say x is equal to what? Is equal to y. There's assignment operator. We have assigned the same value we have for 4 for y to be to be equal to be that of x, right? So if we run this now, it will also be true, right? It's not, the reason why it will be true is that the first condition is not met, but the second condition is met, which means that x is not equal to y. That's why you see true. Now if we run this separately, if we say greater than and come down here, we also print, we say x using the equal to, okay, comparison, you see that we have the first will be false, the second will be true, right? So if we run this, you see we have false and then we have true. So in the case of greater than or equal to, we have two conditions, in the same operator, right? So it's going to check for the two conditions. It will check if the first one is met. It will also check if the first one is met. It will only show you the value of the first one, the result of the first one. If the second condition, if the first condition is false and the second condition is true, it would always show you the true condition. But if the two are false, it will show you the false condition. So three things I mentioned there. It will check for the first condition. If first condition is true, it will not bother to check for the second condition. It will just give you the answer. Okay. Meanwhile, if the first condition is false and the second condition is true, it will show you the true condition, right? So this is what is actually happening here. We are checking for greater than or equal to in the same operator. What about less than or equal to? Is the same thing. We come here and we say less than or equal to y. Let me just print that first. Okay, so we are actually checking if x is less than or equal to or y. In this case, it's going to be true, right? Because because of the equal to condition here now. But if we just check if it is less than, we'll run it to be false, right? Because x is not less than y. So that's that about arithmetic comparison operators. Now let's talk about logical operators. Um, Now, logical operators are actually used to combine conditional statements. So, if I'm talking about logical operators now. So, I'll show you examples of logical operators. Um, Example number one, we have and. We also have or, and then we have not. Okay, so these operators are actually used to combine. Let's say you have a complex or compound conditional statement. Example, let me just show you an example. Let's say you want to do something from the previous comparison operator we have now. We can use the logical operator to do the same thing we are doing. In the first case, for instance, in the case of greater than or equal to, we can come and say, okay, if now we are not using the single operator in this condition, but we're going to be using two, but then we use a logical operator to combine them together, right? In the previous what we just discussed on comparison operator, where we have the less than or equal to, we try to break it down and say two conditions are actually in there. So we can come here and say if let me use my x and y again now. X and y equal to 5 and 4, right? So we'll come here and say if x is greater than y, let's start with the and x, let's say x is equal to y. We want to do something, we want to print want to say x is greater than and equal to, but we can't get such condition, right? It cannot be greater than and the same time equal to. So we can say but not equal to. So let's do this now. Let's check. Now what we are doing here now, this will only be true, this statement will only be true if x is greater than at the same time equal to. Okay, it will only return true if x, let me run this to show you what I mean. Let's you see that nothing gets printed. The reason is that this condition can never be true. It can never be true because it's saying only print, only return, only print this statement if x is greater than y and at the same time x is equal to y. It can never be true, right? Okay, now let's look at it. The value of x here is 5. The first condition is met. And the value of y is 4. That means the x is actually greater than y. But in the second condition, x is not equal to y, right? So in this case, it can never return true. So if you put an else statement here now, and you say print this condition can never be true. You see that the second statement will be printed, right? It can never be true. The condition can never be true. Now, but if we use an or, which is the second logical operator here, you see this first statement will be printed. It's saying that one condition, if one statement is true, then return true. Okay, so in this case now, this first is true, though this one is not true. We'll still have the first statement printed. So we have s is greater but not equal to y. Okay, so you see this is printed. The reason is that in the first condition, in the first logical operator AND, it can only return true if both statements are true, right? Y in the second logical operator, which is OR, it will return true if one of the statement is true. If both are true, it will also return true. Now, the last one I will not talk about here is a NOT. The NOT is like opposite of, is a reversal of the two I just mentioned. Okay, so for instance now, I want to say, let me just do an example to demonstrate the NOT. So I have, in this case now, I want to say print not, let me just print this so that you see first. I want to check if x is actually greater than y. So if I say x greater than y, this should return true, right? Let's print it. It's true. Now, if I now use a NOT, let me say let me wrap this in a double bracket. So I now say NOT. I come here and say NOT. This will return false. It will give you the reversal, right? Do you understand? So the NOT is actually, if you don't want to stress yourself on trying to if you just want to get the opposite of the result, you use a NOT. So the NOT returns false if the result is true, right? If the result is false, the NOT will return true. So if we change this now to less than, we know that x is actually not less than y. That means it will give us false. This statement in this bracket will give us false, but with the NOT now, it will give us true. Do you understand? So we have true. So that's that about the logical operator. Let's talk about the identity operator. Identity operators, they are not much, but they are used to compare objects. Okay, if they are equal, but if they are actually the same object with the same memory location. Now let me explain that. Now we have two objects. I'm talking about the identity operator now. Identity operators. We have is and then is not. Okay, let's do something like this. Let's say x is equal to, let's assign this to a list. Let's say apple and mango. This is string, so we want to put it inside a quote, mango. Okay, so this is a list, and let's say y, these are two objects now. I'm going to give them the same apple, the same items, and then I'll have mango as well, right? So now the identity operators are, like I said, I used to compare objects. Not if they are equal. Now if the objects have the same memory location, they will be equal, right? So the is returns true if both variables, in this case now x and y, are the same objects. Now are they the same objects? they are not, because they are at different memory locations, right? Though they have the same items. So if we come here, I will say x, we'll say print, x is y. What do you think this answer will be? This will actually be false, right? It will be false. The reason is that though they have the same items, but they are different memory locations. Okay. If we say it's not, of course it will return true, right? Because it's not. Now what if we now say x is equal to y? Now in this case, now we have actually taken the value and put them in the same memory location. So the first statement, the first print statement will be true, right? Because now we have said x is equal to y. Okay. And then the not will be false, because x is actually equal to y. So it's looking at this and not two objects separately. Okay. So that's that about the identity operators. It can be very useful. It can be very useful. You can actually use it to check if two objects are actually equal. And then we'll talk about the membership operator. So let me just briefly talk about the membership operator before I end this lesson. So the membership operator, we have the in. This can be very useful in loop. We'll say in, not in. Okay. These are the two membership operators. Okay, so now the membership operators are actually used to test if a sequence is present or presented in an object. So the in will actually return true if a sequence with a specified value is present in the object. So in the object. So in this case now we can actually check if apple is actually in X. Okay, so we'll check if the item apple or the member apple is in X. So if we come here, we can say something like this: apple in X. Okay, let me just do like, okay, let me do like this. Of course, this will return true, right? It returns true because apple is actually in X, right? What if we check for mango? Mango will also return true. Mango will return true. But now let's check for something that is not in X. Let's check for banana. Okay, it will return false because banana is not in X. Do you understand? So basically the not in is opposite of the in. So if I say not in this case now, it will return true, right? Because banana is not in X. So basically this, just take note of these operators. We have the identity operators, just is and is not. Then we have the membership operators, the in and not in. So this can be very useful while you're trying to write some code, so solve some problems. So I will end this particular lesson at this very point. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next lesson. Have a nice day.